This is Lions on Tap, a weekly look inside the Lions' Den, presented by Coors Light, the chilled choice and official beer of the BC Lions. Highlights, interviews, and a look ahead to this week's game. Now, here are your hosts, Matt Baker, Nick Kowalski, and the voice of your BC Lions, Bob the Moj Marjanovic.
This is BC Lions on Tap on 980 CKNW. As the man said, it's the Moj along with Matt Baker and Nick Kowalski from the Lions media content team. Coming to you tonight from Boston Pizza Stadium District, right next to Terry Fox Plaza. Of course, right by BC Place Stadium. And of course, big thank you to everybody here at Boston Pizza for having us. And again, $13 pizza lunch specials Monday through Friday, 11 to 3. Right here, and all of this, a presentation of the good folks at Molson Coors. Gentlemen, our guest tonight will be Stef Flintoft, punter of the BC Lions. Before we get to Steph, though, take a look back at the week that was against the Saskatchewan Roughriders, a showdown for first place in the CFL's Western Division between the 4-0 Riders and the 4-1 BC Lions. A big game, considering if Saskatchewan won. BC would almost be a game and a half back, technically. But, you know, it's interesting. We talked about the turnover battle being the key, and when it was all said and done, it was the Lions who came out on top at +2. And you look at Saskatchewan coming into that game, +10 in the turnover department, 14 turnovers on defense. And yet, when it was all said and done, it was the Lions who won that battle and won the football game.
Yeah, and that felt like a first-place battle. It was, I don't know how well it resonated up there, but being down at field level, it was chippy. A little after the whistle, curriculars, you know, good stuff, clean stuff. But that felt like a big game at this juncture.
It wasn't a 15-point game, was it?
No, it wasn't. And, yeah, and Rick Campbell has said it over and over. I know there's a couple of results that maybe have been a little too close for comfort, but he continues to send that message. They have to win these type of games. They have to make those plays in the fourth quarter, and that's what they did. And Justin McInnes, what can you say?
Yeah. I mean, he was absolutely on fire. 14 catches on 14 targets, 243 yards, 1 touchdown. If you follow Nick Kowalski on Twitter, he was doing a victory lap because he predicted McInnes was going to have a breakout. Second day of camp? Was that it?
First day of camp. He had some big catches over the middle, just like he's been doing all season.
You didn't take a victory lap. You took victory laps, plural, on Twitter.
Where's the pluralness in it?
You did a couple.
The CFL literally put that on their Instagram. I mean, they put me on blast. So
they put your post on their carousel. That's when you know you've made it big.
Well, I believed in Justin, right? That's why I threw it out there. I kind of pick my spots with that stuff, and you see Justin McInnes making all these plays. Everyone's kind of worried about the receiving corps going into the season, and now look at Justin, 2,000-yard pace.
You know what's crazy, guys? They put 35 points on the board, did the Lions, and 7 field goals, as Vernon Adams Jr. will tell you post-game. There's a lot more there. And Alexander Hollins was very not like Alexander Hollins with a couple of drops, including one that probably would have gone for a touchdown. So, I mean, they scored 35, and the potential was there to maybe score 45 or 50.
Yeah, and credit to Hollins, though, for, in the end, making amends. He had, I think, a 46-yard catch that helped tee up Vernon's touchdown run. And, it's kind of interesting because now you look, McInnes and Hollins are number 1 and 2. So I wonder if McInnes and Hollins are having kind of a fun little thing going, because Batman knows he would still be on top of the receiving stats if he hauled that one in. But he's a passionate player, and he owned up to it after. And it's good to see these guys bounce back when things don't go right.
You know, you talk about big plays in the fourth quarter, and something that I touched on in my column for Black Press this week was scores 22-20. Saskatchewan had the ball, whatever it was, the 45, 48-yard line, whatever. Emelis makes a catch.
Yep.
Josh Archibald with a great effort coming from his defensive end spot, going downfield, stripping Emelis of the ball. Manny Rugamba comes up with it. Lions get the football, and as you mentioned, Bake, the 47-yarder by Hollins. Vernon Adams Jr. runs it for 13. Lead goes back up to 29-20. I don't know if I won't say that was the ball game, but it pretty much stifled any or shut down any hopes that the Riders had of coming back.
It did feel like the dagger that it made it a 9-point game at that point, right? So that's obviously 2 possessions. But something I noticed back on the broadcast, and Glenn Suter did a really good job of pointing this out, is on that Hollins 47-yard ball, Saskatchewan brings 6. I believe CJ Avery, their weak side linebacker, comes free up the A-gap, so the gap between the center and the guard, and Will Stanback steps up, blocks him, and without that Stanback block, there's no chance Vernon is able to step into that ball to complete it. And then obviously 2 plays later on that second down where Vernon scrambles for the touchdown, it's Dave Mackey sealing Marcus Sales. And as a defender, you're always taught to keep the rusher or the person with the ball inside, right? And Dave's block allowed Vernon to get outside into the end zone. So some 2 key blocks there in that drive.
Well, it's interesting when you look at those positions, and everybody always talks about blocking, and they always point towards the offensive line. Don't forget the role of the running back. Don't forget the role of, say, an H-back or a tight end like David Mackey or Javon Catoy in certain instances, because those guys play a big role in the blocking scheme as well.
And another big sequence, I finished my rewatch of the game yesterday, and third quarter, I think it was, or no, it was halfway through the second quarter where it was Emulus again with a big catch on a curl route, I think. The Riders had 1st and goal on the 5, and I think it was Sione Tuhema on the first down play, made the play, and then that's a sequence where the Lions hold Saskatchewan to 3. The score, I think, was 19-7 or 16-7 at that point. That's a big swing there. You keep them out of the end zone and you force Brett Lothar to come out. So there was a couple of instances in that game where bend don't break. It's an overused term, but that defense buckled down when it had to.
Well, that 1st and goal situation where they held him on downs, got the ball back on downs.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there was a turnover on the ensuing drive. And
early in the fourth.
Yeah, and it wound up being Ouellette going in for a touchdown anyway. But still, the defense made some big plays when they had to. And, I'm sure we'll talk to Steph about this because I was talking to Steph yesterday, Flintoft that is, and we were talking about Jonah Tavai. Made his CFL debut, got a sack.
Huge.
And it was funny because Rick Campbell had mentioned that he said, watch the opening kickoff. And he literally made Jordan Herdman-Reed, he crumpled him. He just went down. I think and it wasn't a dirty hit. It was
took him out of the game.
It was just
right?
like a straight-on hit. And talk about a guy making an impression. And good for Jonah Tavai, because one thing I love about that kid is that he's just got a tremendous motor, like an absolutely tremendous motor.
And you called this back in Kamloops. We were kind of talking on the field one day at Hillside toward the end of camp, and you were kind of remarking, Jonah Tavai, you just watch him every rep, goes hard, and this is a guy that might earn himself a spot on the practice roster, and ultimately he did. And that was a big, Nick, you'll know this too, we talked about it on First and Now everywhere else, that interior defensive line with Banks and Thibaut Debaye out, that was going to be a big area. They were going to have to try to neutralize A.J. Ouellette. You saw the damage he was capable of doing, and Jonah, good on him for standing out in his debut.
100%, and guys like even gaining Christian Covington kind of last second tune into the lineup, right, with Javon Catoy not being able to go at the end there. So they rotate these guys in. I'm always curious about a guy like Joshua Archibald, who leads the league in sacks right now with 4. He's tied for the league.
Tied with 4, yeah.
It's a crazy stat, though, where I'm looking at Arch, and I went up to PFF just to see how many snaps he's playing a game. He's averaging 12 snaps on defense a game. So the production level he's getting at the rate that he's getting these rotational snaps is it's outrageous.
He's going to be getting more snaps, trust me.
He's forcing, he's leaving no choice, right?
And there's a guy who, I know you guys have talked about it at BCLions.com, a guy who was a two-way player in high school, and now is just strictly focused on defense and playing defensive line. And, the thing about this game against Saskatchewan was the fact that there's so many different contributions on defense. I mean, Adrian Green with an interception, Bo Lacumbo with a quarterback sack.
Yep.
And it just seemed like everybody had a little piece of what was going on the defensive side. And the defense played a pretty good game if you look at what Saskatchewan had been doing going in. And like I said, they made the big plays when they had to.
How about Anu Una on the third down stuff going on the field there? Number 61, a first-round pick up the middle there. And one number I looked at that was pretty jarring from this game is Sask was 5 of 18 on second down. So you're usually trying to clip at like a 50% rate on second down, and Sask was under 30%. And that's why it ultimately was a 15-point game. Sask couldn't really – they had those big plays, but they couldn't get consistent plays.
Well, as the Lions come off this 35-20 win against the Saskatchewan Roughriders, it doesn't get any easier. They got to go into McMahon Stadium and take on the Calgary Stampeders, a team that gave the Winnipeg Blue Bombers all they can handle this past weekend. And what do you guys like? I mean, Calgary's not going to be an easy out. It's funny because Rick Campbell and everyone's talked about this in the league this year. Never mind the records, even the teams that are winless. And we saw what happened at Edmonton. 3 weeks in a row, they've lost on a walk-off field goal. They're
Unheard of.
0-5,
Yeah.
and they've lost 1 game by 8 and 4 games by field goal. Right, so it's not like they're a, quote, bad team. They're extremely competitive, and it just seems every team in this league, there's not an easy out this year.
No, and this Calgary team, watching them very closely the last 2 weeks, they were nearly the first team to hand Montreal a loss. I know that was kind of a weird one. There was some turnovers traded in the second quarter, kind of threw that game out of whack. And I've been impressed with Jake Mayer and how he's improved himself year by year. And you can't take it away, but the pick 6 to, was it Nichols in Winnipeg?
Yeah, some goods and some bads.
Ultimately was a big moment in the game, and that was one of the games of the year for me, Calgary and Winnipeg. And it's interesting, the Bombers going for 2 at the end. Now we have an idea. They win the season series by 1 point on Calgary because of that successful 2-point convert. So,
and it was the reason Rick Campbell kicked the field goal on the last play of the game, and people thought that they're racking it up. But BC and Saskatchewan only made twice, so if they split, it goes to aggregate points, and that's why Rick decided to kick the field goal.
Never too early to start thinking about that kind of thing, even though the Lions and Riders don't play until October, I think it is, at Mosaic. But yeah, Calgary, just Rick Campbell talks about making those plays in the fourth quarter. The Stampeders haven't been doing that the last couple of weeks, and that's been the difference.
No, they really haven't been able to come up with those 1 or 2 plays down in the fourth quarter, right? And I think a big number that I look at with Calgary is they're allowing the most yards per game in the CFL, and that's what kind of let Montreal come back into that game. They had, I think 200 yards in the fourth quarter, kind of a couple touchdown drives in a row, and it's kind of the defense right now that's Calgary's weak point. So, again, we talk about this a lot. On paper, when you look at the matchups, you look at Alex Hollins, Justin McInnis, Javon Catoy if he comes back, and will stand back even against this Calgary defense. The Lions have the advantage. But, again, like Rick Campbell says, like we're saying, it all comes down to execution on game day. And
when you talk about the Lions, a bit of a tough stretch coming up as they go on the road. As we mentioned in Calgary, they have a bye week. Then they travel to Winnipeg on Thursday, August the 1st. Then they go to Edmonton on Sunday, August the 11th. They're not back home until Sunday, August 18th. And by that point, a certain member at this table is going to be a big 6-0.
Oh.
2 days after. 2 days after.
Milestone.
Milestone. So it's I'm just like, wow, that's a ways away. But then I think to myself, it's not. I can't. I still can't fathom the fact.
And how about that? I think this Lions team plays in Winnipeg the exact same 2 weeks, week 3.
Don't get me going on Winnipeg.
I don't know how that works, but
I don't know why we have to go to Winnipeg 5 times in 2 years.
Flintoft is jacked up.
I don't know why I don't know what I did to deserve that. What we all
next time you get Ambrosi on, ask him.
I know. I got to give him gear.
Thursday too, eh? Good bye week.
No, I'm fine with that because we get a long weekend coming home, August long weekend.
We get a longer week after our bye week.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, Stef Flintoft, Lions punter, is going to stop by. We'll talk to him about his journey in the game of football. Also talk to him about this season with the BC Lions. Again, we're coming to you from the Boston Pizza Stadium District right next to Terry Fox Plaza. If you're in the neighborhood, of course, this place is offering $13 pizza lunch specials Monday through Friday from 11 to 3. Great stuff.
Love it.
All right, much more coming up. Stef Flintoft in the next segment. You're listening to BC Lions on Tap on 980 CKNW.
Now, back to more of Lions on Tap, presented by Coors Light. Once again, here are Matt Baker, Nick Kowalski, and Bob the Moj Marjanovic.
This is BC Lions on Tap, coming to you from Boston Pizza Stadium District, right next to Terry Fox Plaza. It's the Moj Bob Marjanovic, as the man said, with Matt Baker and Nick Kowalski from the Lions media content team. And we are happy to have Stef Flintoft stop by tonight, Lions punter, who joins us to talk a little football and, of course, talk about his journey in the game and, of course, look back at the week that was and the week that's coming up. Stef, welcome.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Nice to have you on board. Nice that we managed to talk to your agent, pay the fee, and get you down here. So it's good stuff.
Of course.
There's a lot of work doing that. Yeah,
I'm telling you, 3 layers too. Like, you had to talk to the primary agent and the secondary agent and the third agent. But it's
UCLA, yeah.
Just to get me up the road too.
Hey, before we get along and start talking about football and your journey and it, just looking back at the week that was, your thoughts on the victory over Sask.
It felt good. Obviously, it's a big game every year, especially this year. They're playing really well, really good football. So it felt good to get out there, have another home game, and have a good win. Tons of field goals. It's always a good thing, too.
There you go.
Hey, all kidding aside, I mean, people just think that is some sort of, whatever deal, right? But the chemistry that you got to have between the snapper, the holder, and the kicker, it's got to be on point.
Yeah.
Right? Because if one of those things goes awry, the kick's no good.
Exactly. I mean, there's so many pieces to it, and at the end of the day, we're expected to be perfect. So we just have to be gelling, all three of us, and been fortunate enough to be with Pickett, Whitey for the last few years. That definitely helps, that continuity. So
that's awesome stuff. We were talking about this yesterday when we had the big golf excursion over to Kings Links, but we were talking about Jonah Tavai.
Yeah.
And you were like, film session, he was pointed out quite a few times. Like, as much as everyone's talking about, McInnes and VA and the defense, to me, he was a real good story. Like, he, to me, like one of those under-the-radar stories during the game. But as you mentioned, not an under-the-radar story during film session.
No, he got circled on that film review pretty quickly, and just the whole room was going nuts. But I remember watching during the game, I was just thinking about his brother and his family that were probably watching at home all together, because I played with JR in 2021. Got pretty close with him because he's also an LA guy. Sadly, he went to USC, but we don't need to talk about that. But I could just picture him and his whole family just going absolutely nuts watching Jonah play. And in his first start ever, playing how he did, it's awesome to see.
What were some of your other takeaways from the game?
I mean, we, like you were saying earlier, the field goals, VA mentioned that is a lot of points left out there. But it is nice to know when we're out there, it's almost a sure thing every time that we're going to get points. Points on the board. That's what VA, me, Whitey, we always talk together. It's just points matter. And two, you got Whitey playing how he is, playing how he's played a 15-year career. It matters. It's important, those points. So.
Hey, let's go back in the time machine a little bit. So 2021, your first time coming up here, and I'll never forget it because there was a lot of uncertainty coming out of the lost season with COVID, and it was kind of our first exposure to drafting global players, and you were working with Jake Ford, who was the global draft pick. What are your recollections of first coming up here and having to compete for a spot and working with him? What was that all like?
I mean, I was ready for it. I signed in 2020, and I wanted to come up here, and was sad to see the season get canceled. So I had a whole extra year to just prepare specifically for BC camp in July, which is when we had it. And unfortunately was P-squatted those first 2 weeks, so that just kind of added more fuel to the fire. Had a feeling that I was going to get a chance to go in at some point that year, just with everything that can happen in football. And just knew I had to kind of fire on all cylinders in order to keep that once I do get the opportunity. So, but it was really good. Great competition. He's a great punter. Pretty sure he's coaching at his alumni.
In Kansas, I think, is it? Or
I think it's Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Yeah, Wichita Baptist. So,
yes.
Yeah, no, it was a great guy. We competed hard against each other, and yeah, I'm glad I kind of came out on top.
Let's take it back even further. I mean, you went to UCLA, and we'll talk a little bit about, high school and all that, but you were at the camp of the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
You got cut, and then how do you wind up in BC?
So after camp in Denver, just mini camp, I moved to Alabama to train and coach full time. That's where I did my draft prep as well. And in that process, I met Ty Long and Richie Leone through our private coach. Obviously, Ty still had his connections up here, and once he, felt like I was on the, on course of being ready, he might have sent a text or two to one of the guys up here, and we just kind of went from there. Sent film, and over the course of a few months, we started talking pretty seriously.
Did you have a pretty good idea what the CFL was about, obviously, through Ty and Richie?
Yeah, they got me ready. Yeah, without them, I would have come up and been shocked a little bit by all the different rule changes and different types of punts, and definitely the pace of the game up here. But because of them, I was pretty prepared. Yeah.
Get back to that in a sec, but when did you realize you had a future in football? Because you go to school in California, you played soccer in high school. I believe you lettered as a punter. When did you realize that, hey, you know what, maybe I can do something with this, not only at UCLA, but also even further?
Yeah, so my freshman year of high school, the upperclassman, Conrad Ucrapina, he ended up being a kicker at Stanford. So he was highly recruited out of high school, and that's kind of when I realized that you can, go to a really nice college, big college, just to kick a football, because back then it wasn't what it is now. people weren't specializing in it like they are nowadays at such a young age. So he kind of gave me that realization, like, oh, we can actually do something with this. And then it just went from there. I got to UCLA. I walked on, worked my way up.
You didn't get a ride?
Nope.
Wow.
No money out of high school, nothing.
That's awesome.
Only walk-on opportunities, and ended up leaving as a two-year team captain, third, I think, in school history. So I'm pretty happy with what I did, with what I was given,
You overlapped with Chip Kelly, too, in 2018, right? I was looking at your guys' record, though. Unfortunately, it wasn't that good. But that's probably something that's positive for you. Or how do you even look at that when the team is, I think it was 2-9 you guys went? Were you happy that you were on the field a lot, or upset that you're losing, or how does that go?
Yeah, it was an interesting year, obviously. New head coach, new coaching staff altogether, new strength staff, so the whole deal. And, yeah, we went 3-9. So it's the punting position, you're kind of in this weird area where you're going out when your offense isn't doing well, so you don't want to be excited that you're on the field, but you want to obviously make the most of it, impact the game as best as you can. So, yeah, we went 3-9. It wasn't the best year, but I was able to get some good film, a lot of reps out there. I think I might have had the most punts in the CFL, in the Pac-12 that season. And yeah, it was someone's got to be the positive note.
Do you know Kowalski's done some research here, right?
I don't doubt it.
Yeah, like Nick, he's our research department.
I got an AJ Cole question coming.
He might know more about me than I do about me.
Do you know you
played with like a descendant of the Molson the Molson family?
Yeah. So
Molson?
JJ Molson was my kicker in college for 3 years. Yeah, Great guy. He just finished his first season in the UFL with the Houston Roughnecks. I'm pretty sure he might have only missed one field goal that whole season, so he played really well. Yeah, great year for him.
Great beer, too, right?
Great beer.
There's our plug for the show. I got a random AJ Cole question about you, and it kind of ties into what we were talking about transitioning into Canada. So you saw when he wore that Winnipeg, he's the Raiders punter, for those who don't know, and when the Raiders came to play Green Bay in Winnipeg in some exhibition game in whatever year, he wore a hoodie that said Winnipeg, Alberta on it.
Yeah.
Did you guys still razz him about that?
Yeah, so there's a story behind that. So at the time, Gruden was his head coach. They were on the flight, about to walk down the stairs. He just hands 2 T-shirts to AJ and their kicker, Daniel Carlson, and just tells them to put it on. It'll be good for the photos. Not knowing that, obviously, the province is the wrong one.
Yeah.
And they just got destroyed on Twitter. Just
Winnipeg,
nonstop.
Alberta.
Winnipeg, Alberta.
Oh.
So it was a prank?
Yeah. He set him up so bad, yeah.
Oh, man, that would have been. And there was like a big controversy in that game, something about the field.
Yeah, they didn't
ready
too short.
Yeah,
the field was too short.
They played on a 90-yard field, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because like some part of it was unplayable and all that. Sounds like you guys have a pretty tight community, like all the punters and kickers.
It's crazy how small of a world it is. Yeah, I mean, this past April, I went back down south, back home, spent some time in San Diego, and I was training with about 7 to 9 different NFL punters and kickers. Yeah, most of them I did my draft prep with. So we've gotten pretty close throughout the years.
Do you kind of like think sometimes, man, maybe Sundays, could I do it on Sundays?
There's some days.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're kicking with AJ. He's probably one of the best punters to punt a football in the last couple decades. So he'll humble you pretty quickly.
Hey, you were talking about the differences, like learning how to punt. Like, what are the differences punting, say, in the U.S. game compared to the Canadian game?
Yeah, so obviously they got the fair catch. So there's times where they might not hit a great punt, but return a fair catch it's kind of a win-win. Like, you got away with one almost, but CFL, there's always going to be that return. So with the wider field too, you kind of have to play it differently. There's a ton of different punts that you can do up here. Getting the ball on the ground, having it roll, gives you guys time to cover. It's just those little nuances. But it's just, you can compare it to golf. You got more clubs in your bag up here than you would in the States.
Is it tougher?
Well, I haven't played in the NFL.
You played college, though.
Playing in college,
you played the American game.
I mean, some nights you can have 1 to 2 punts the whole night. So you're almost stealing a game check at that point. Up here, you can easily get into that 8, 9, 10 rep a game, which is pretty tough. You're out there a lot, and you definitely feel it the next couple days. So,
and the elements too. I mean, I don't think the stadiums. I talked to Julio Caravetta quite a bit. previous stadiums or previous versions of stadiums, say in Hamilton.
Yeah.
I think Hamilton's still pretty windy, but Taylor Field in Regina compared to Mosaic was a lot worse in terms of the elements. Yeah. You can ask Whitey all these questions.
Oh, he's already told me. Yeah.
But yeah, I imagine something that's Whitey talk about. You like the stadiums, the newer version of the stadiums aren't as bad as some of the older ones when it came to the elements.
They're less open. Yeah, but Hamilton, you still get that wind coming down.
Coming off the escarpment.
Calgary's another one, so I've been hearing it might be a little windy this upcoming weekend. So we'll just see when we get there. They have the altitude though, which helps a ton.
Steph Flintoft is our guest. This is BC Lions on Tap. We are coming to you from Boston Pizza Stadium District, right next to Terry Fox Plaza. Of course, they have $13 pizza lunch specials from Monday through Friday from 11 to 3. It's all presentation of Molson Coors. Are we going to keep them around for trivia in the final segment tonight?
It's all related to Justin McInnis and Alexander Hollins. So if you think you know them well, then you're welcome to say.
Are they personal or stats? That's a different...
kind of a combination, actually.
Maybe we'll keep him around because we kept Peters around a couple of weeks ago. He did a pretty good job.
We didn't have like an actual scorecard.
He held his own.
Yeah, he held his own. Okay. All right, much more coming up. Steph Flintoft, Lions punter, is our guest. You're listening to BC Lions on Tap on 980 CKNW.
Now, back to more of Lions on Tap, presented by Coors Light. Once again, here are Matt Baker, Nick Kowalski, and Bob the Moj Marjanovic.
This is BC Lions on Tap, coming to you from Boston Pizza Stadium District, right next to Terry Fox Plaza. Again, if you're in the neighborhood, they have $13 pizza lunch specials Monday through Friday from 11 to 3. Of course, this is a presentation of the good folks at Molson Coors. It's the Moj, Bob Marjanovic. As the man said, Matt Baker and Nick Kowalski from the Lions Media Content Team. Our guest tonight is punter Steph Flintoft of the BC Lions. One of the things, that I think a lot of people always talk about, they talk about football players and they talk about, quote, kickers, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, the kickers, they're always kind of like their own little unit. But it seems like on this team, you guys are pretty accepted by your teammates.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But you know where I'm going with that, right?
Yeah, well, the stereotype is always the kickers are off to the side.
Yeah.
Even at some colleges, they're not at practice the whole day, from which I've heard stories of that. We always were, for the record, at UCLA, the whole practice. But no, this team altogether is just extremely close. I mean, guys that come from other teams, they immediately comment on the locker room. And I just don't think there's any place even remotely like it in this league.
What do you think that's true?
We put a lot of importance on it. It's like if you don't gel with us, then it might not work out altogether. Like we're a family, and for how long this season is, how tough it can be, how tough it usually is, you got to be close. You're playing for each other rather than just playing for yourself or playing for stats, whatever it may be. It's just bigger than the game of football,
And it's interesting because it's about interacting away from the facility as well. I mean, yesterday there was a bunch of you guys. We all went out to Kings Links, and a big shout out to them for hosting us. But you do that. I mean, and just the other things too. Like, I don't like Foursquare. I'm still trying to figure out the game that you guys play in the locker room.
Oh, I stay away from that.
But that's something that brings guys together. Like, they're competing, they're having fun, and it kind of brings everyone together under the same roof.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So what are the rules of Foursquare? Do you actually know?
You just
Kowalski?
You got to bounce the ball.
I played it once with Menard. I held my own. I never really did understand the rule. You just got to keep it. You got to go in order, right? You got to keep it inside the lines.
Yeah, I don't know if there's necessarily an order, but there was at one point a cardboard cutout last year with rules on it. It was like the 10 Commandments of Foursquare.
Yes, Sione created that, right?
Yeah, I think so. All I know is that they're all sweating during it. They're yelling, arguing.
We can hear them. So we're above them in the locker room.
Right below my office.
On the second floor, and we can hear them yelling whenever something big happens on. Because it happens every day still,
every single day.
People that don't know, it's probably about a 4x4 square with 4 squares. It's cordoned off into 4 squares. They play with a ball. Mm-hmm. They bounce it in the square, and I don't know the rules after that. But it's some sort of like
you bounce it in someone else's square, and if they don't get it into another one, then they're out, and then they just rotate. And it's just, I mean, you'll see RP down there sometimes.
It's intense.
Coach Tuck will get in there. Coach Bowman, So
the crazy thing is we had Hollins on the pregame show, and I threw that by him, and he did not break character. He's like the most talkative guy on the planet.
Yeah,
because I'm the best.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the best. As soon as the mic turned off, he starts howling, right? Because he just claims he's the best when it comes to Foursquare.
I'm sure there's about 8 of them that claim they're the best.
But, we talk about that. Yeah, and then there's the other thing, too, is like golf, right? And David Mackey organizes the big tournament every year. And then you guys go golfing on your own, and you and Whitey, and, of course, Mackey's in there. Pearson, yeah. So it seems like, that's another way that you guys kind of bond together.
And if we're not golfing together, like this afternoon, I was getting notifications on my phone that Packer was, +7 at the turn at Fraserview. So we're keeping tabs all time, all the time.
Won't judge that, +7. Hey, let's talk about your off season. Not everyone would know you stuck around. Well, more specifically, you were in Whistler. You were working as a ski coach.
Yes, that was actually the local mountains.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I thought it was Whistler, but talk about that and how rewarding that has been for you. A California kid coaching skiing. I love to hear that.
Yeah, so I've stayed up here year-round the last 2 years. And 2 off seasons ago, I got in contact with Special Olympics BC. I just always wanted to volunteer and work with them. So I started coaching their track team for North Shore of Vancouver 2 off seasons ago. Just finished the second season this past week, actually. The day before our game, and on game day, there was a track meet over in Coquitlam. Didn't go to the one on game day, but the day before I was there. And that got me into the ski coaching in the winter, this past winter. So I was working with Special Olympics Vancouver branch at Cypress Mountain, and I was working with Vancouver Adaptive Snow Sports up at Grouse, just doing some volunteer ski coaching. So I grew up skiing. My parents got me skiing when I was about 1.5.
Wow.
Second I could walk, they threw me on skis. We grew up in Tahoe in the winters, taking trips up there. So it's always been part of my life up on the mountain. And yeah, I just wanted to give back, do what I can. I know those athletes, they're all hyped up when they find out another athlete's coming to help with them and ski with them and just hang out, spend time. And it's super rewarding. They get a ton out of it, but honestly, we get just as much. So
wow. Is that an avenue you want to continue doing that post-football perhaps, or is that?
Yeah, I think I'll always volunteer with Special Olympics.
Wow.
Yeah, I got a cousin too. When he was at Berkeley, he set up the I think it was the autism marathon, maybe not the marathon, but autism walk.
Yeah.
And was just getting a ton of fundraising going for that too. So his 4 years there. So yeah.
Well, I know even when we go to Super Bowl week now, we see former Calgary Stampeders linebacker Alex Singleton that does work with Special Olympics BC too. So he comes out, and they always have someone with them, and it's always a cool interview.
Alex does a lot of work with Special Olympics in the States, and it's a cause that's near and dear to him. And you hear that word rewarding all the time, right? I mean, and it kind of puts everything in perspective. I think, you sit there and you might have a bad day or whatever the case may be, and you see these Special Olympians that are just so geeked that you're there to help them, and they're excited, and it's a win-win situation, not only for them but for someone who's coaching them as well.
Yeah, exactly. No, and I've gotten really close because obviously the athletes, they're doing it every single year. Some of them have been doing Special Olympics for decades and decades. We have an athlete in North Shore, Jay. He's 65 this year, and he still was at the track meet this past weekend. So he's been a part of it forever, and I'm getting that whole track team to one of our home games in August. So
awesome.
Look for him there. Yeah.
Steph Flintoft is our guest. This is BC Lions on Tap. We are coming to you tonight from Boston Pizza Stadium District, of course, right next to Terry Fox Plaza. This is a presentation of the good folks at Molson Coors. It's the Moj, Bob Marjanovic, along with Matt Baker and Nick Kowalski from the Lions Media Content Team. And, of course, our guest is Lions punter Steph Flintoft. Got you for a couple more minutes, unless you want to stick around for the trivia part, but we'll see about that. How confident you're feeling. Peter stuck around last week. Gary Peters, you did pretty good. Yeah.
All right. I feel like I can beat Gary.
It's a different question.
Different question. You never know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Score higher.
Calgary this week.
Yep.
And then it's a bye. People always talk about going into the bye week on a good note. I don't want to say you empty the tank. And it's interesting because I remember Rick Campbell talking about this a couple of years ago when the team went into Winnipeg and had that big win early in the season, and then after that they just couldn't duplicate that success. The one thing he said was that they might have put too much emphasis on that game, and I think now it's more of an even keel approach through every game. So it's not like a be-all, end-all that you have to beat Calgary, but obviously going into the bye week with a win is a hell of a lot better than losing. But looking at this game against Calgary, what do you anticipate?
I mean, I feel like every time we play Calgary, their special teams coordinator, he's got something lined up for us.
Kill him, yeah.
Yeah, he's obviously great at what he does. I feel like they play pretty hard on special teams. Great punter, great kicker as well. So who knows? Maybe it's a little battle of the kickers and punters this week.
One thing this year they've talked about, punt returns for touchdowns are down. I think Janarian Grant might have had the first or second one in that game against Toronto. Any reason for that, do you think?
Honestly, it could be so many different things. Yeah. There's so many variables that go into a punt. But obviously, great returners throughout the whole league. Again, a lot of them are the same as last year, maybe just in a different place. But
like Murray Alford, I don't think's lost a step, but he just hasn't put up the numbers. And who knows? Maybe it's just one game he'll pop with a couple.
Exactly. I feel like everyone's just kind of getting warm. We're only a third of the way through the season. There's still a ton of games to go, and then I think they're going to ramp it up. So
let me throw this to you because I've seen this a couple times now, and I'm wondering if this is turning into maybe a strategy or is it just maybe a one-off. But there have been a couple of occasions where a punt is within the 5-yard line. It's been a pretty deep punt. Mm-hmm. And one time I think the ball was just kind of lying there and a guy just ran up within the 5 yards, took the no yards penalty, made the tackle. Right? Yeah. Like it's almost like some teams will say, okay, we're going to take the no yards and we'll give you 15 or whatever the penalty is, and you can have a 1st and 10 at your own 17 rather than have that situation where they risk it, a big return, right? Do you think that's something that teams are going to look at now and just kind of almost give up the yardage and take a penalty in certain instances?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, I think Hamilton even this year, they had a ball that was about to roll into the end zone, and their gunner hit it to keep it in play. Obviously, that's an illegal touching. Yeah. But again, that's just a 10 or 15 tops compared to the ball in the 40. So that's a huge field difference right there. So I honestly saw that. First reaction was like, what's going on? And then it kind of clicked. I was like, that's one of the smarter plays I've seen. Only time I have seen it done up here.
And I think I saw the same play. And I think there was another time, I think might have been Calgary or something. But I just thought to myself, it's the exact same thing you're thinking. It was a smart play, right? And is this something that teams are going to start looking at?
I mean, with a field this big, it's all where you're starting, Give them the furthest distance to go, you're probably going to have a better chance of stopping them.
And talking about implications too, right? A chance to wrap up a season series with a division rival going into the bye again. You guys talk about that much, or you just take it game-by-game basis?
Yeah, every week's a new week, Same, just a faceless opponent, you could say. So.
And what is it about Cal? There's always some eventful games taking place there the last couple of years. Crazy comebacks. Remember Vernon's first start in September 2022? What is something in the water there, I think, right?
They're a tough opponent. Again, like I heard you guys saying earlier, it doesn't matter what the records are. Yeah. It's when you're playing that conference opponent, with Western opponent, it's a tough matchup every time.
Well, the last thing I jotted down, Flint, here, I was like, I got to ask you, what's going on? You have 0 tackles on the air. You made a reputation last year. I think you had 2, right?
Oh, I don't know. Are they
coming? It's probably not a good thing if they do come, right? But
I'd rather not have to make any tackles, but, I like to think if I do my job well enough, then I shouldn't have to make any tackles. So I just try to make it as easy on my guys and let them just clean up some easy tackles, get some stat
all right,
boosters.
We're going to keep you around. I don't know how much you're going to contribute, but it's kind of a new thing that we're keeping our guests around for Nick Kowalski's world-famous trivia, which people are waiting for from Mission to Montreal. So it's a pretty big deal. Steph Flintoft's going to stick around for our final segment. Again, Kowalski's world-famous trivia is coming up. We are coming to you from Boston Pizza Stadium District, right next to Terry Fox Plaza. And, of course, they got a great pizza special Monday through Friday from 11 to 3, $13 pizza lunch specials. How good is that? And again, all of us is presented by the good folks at Molson Coors.
It's pretty good, I think, yeah.
One final segment coming up with Steph Flintoft and Nick Kowalski's world-famous trivia. You're listening to BC Lions on Tap on 980 CKNW.
This is Lions on Tap, presented by Coors Light, the chill choice and official beer of the BC Lions. Now it's time for Nick Kowalski's world-famous trivia.
The man has his own intro. That's how big this trivia segment is. It's the Moj, Bob Arjonovich, Matt Baker. As you heard, Nick Kowalski from the Lions Media Content Team coming to you tonight from Boston Pizza Stadium District, Right next to Terry Fox Plaza, another edition of BC Lions on Tap. And a big shout-out to Ismet, the manager here at Terry Fox Plaza, has been a great host tonight. Actually risked life and limb to try to find an extra speaker because our award-winning producer, the Hall of Famer Trevor Martins, forgot to bring one.
Yeah, so I walked in here and T-Mart and Ismet were up walking on the roof. I'm like, are we going on the roof tonight?
Ismet was
What's going
like
on
above
here?
and beyond, literally.
Like, what are we doing?
So
Can we do a rooftop show one week? Can we put that out there?
Sure.
Again, if you're in the neighborhood, Boston Pizza Stadium District, right next to Terry Fox Plaza, $13 pizza lunch specials, Monday through Friday, 11 to 3. Our guest, of course, is Stefan Flintoft. He's sticking around for this world-famous Nick Kowalski trivia segment, and it's going to feature, I guess, Alexander Hollins and Justin McInnes, right?
Yes.
Sensing a theme here, yeah.
For those here, back over here watching us, and if you're watching on YouTube right now, you can see this. Justin McInnes, Alex Hollins, you guys have
Little 3x3 photos.
Yeah, little two faces of their headshots. Because
Color, too. He splurged.
Yeah, you went over budget with this, I tell you. Yeah.
Don't tell Kayla and Cody. But anyways, yeah, two receivers, Alex Hollins, Justin McInnes, they're lighting the CFL on fire. Number 1 and 2 in receiving yards. One stat I love I was looking up this week, the gap between 1st and 5th in receiving yards is bigger than the gap between 5th and 55th. That's how good Justin McInnes is this year.
Wow.
So they're letting on fire. So you got the world famous trivia. We're gonna play a world famous game of Alex or Justin. So question 1, I got creative with this. Who is older, Alex Hollins or Justin McInnes? They are both turning 28 this year, but who is older?
Justin.
So Baker's got Justin.
We'll go Justin.
We got Justin.
we all got
Justin.
the same.
You guys all got Justin. The answer is Justin McInnes. He's 120 days older.
He
than
looks
Alex
older and
Hollins.
he's more mature.
It's close to
Couple
120 days.
kids will do that to you.
Yeah, and he's got kids, too.
We'll
so
talk
there you go.
about it with them tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right, question 2. We're going to go into the stats here. CFL receiving yards in their career. It is close. It's within 100. Who do you think has more?
Hollins.
Career receiving yards. Moja's Hollins,
We go
and
McInnes.
Flint is going McInnes. The correct answer is Justin McInnes.
Ooh,
Hey,
Flint takes the
look at that.
lead.
Justin McInnes has 2,011
Can't
yards.
be
so
that
congrats.
big of a gap, yeah.
1946 for Hollins. So
Plus one, Flint.
here we go. So we're pretty much beside BC Place right now, right? It's kind of in the background, actually. I don't think you can
It's a
see it.
stone. It's a short punt away. Yes, not even.
In the snow, McInnes.
So I kind of got creative with this one.
Uphill.
Here's the question. So whose birthplace, if you drove to BC Place, which is closer?
Ooh.
It's close. It's within 400 kilometers.
McInnes.
So we got McInnes. You guys are all incorrect. Yazoo City, Mississippi, the birthplace of Alex Hollins, is 4,192 kilometers away. Payfardans, Quebec, I think that's how you say it, is 4,550.
Pretty much, the West Island of Montreal.
I think it's because you
yeah.
got to drive around.
Look at Bakes getting an A in Geography 11. Next question.
All right, here's a
C+.
fun one. Here's a fun one. This is a hard-hitting one. Instagram followers. Who has more Instagram
boy.
followers?
Oh, Hollins.
Batman.
Hollins.
Really?
What are you going?
I think it
Flint's
might be
going McInnes. All right, so the answer is Alexander Hollins.
Oh,
we're
even.
tied.
We're all
We're
tied.
tied.
We're tied.
It's not even close. I think we got to pump
Yeah.
Justin.McInnes is his Instagram. We got to get him some more followers. Ali B does have a lot of followers.
He does
on
have a lot.
Instagram,
That's
so.
yeah.
So there you go, Flint. You learned something today.
Social media is not my thing.
Here's a fun. This could be the tiebreaker, I guess, because we're all tied right now. So this, I went to. The only source I could find for this stat was the Social Security Administration of the U.S. government.
Oh boy.
And
You hacked their computer?
Yeah.
you have no. No, it's public information. It's only public information I could find because the question is, which first name is more popular, Justin or Alex? And this is in the last 100 years.
Alex. Yeah, it's got to be.
Alex. You guys are all incorrect.
Oh.
Really?
Or Alexander, I'm saying. Sorry.
Oh, see that
Justin.
changes things.
Well, you guys are all incorrect.
So we're still tied. Okay.
Justin is ranked as the 38th most common name, and Alexander is the 44th most common name. So 785,000
So it's close
babies
again.
named Justin. They're all
Right.
close.
Yeah.
You got a tough act to follow
Two
after
close
this
guys.
one. Boy.
Jeez.
Where can we go for a tiebreaker here?
So that was the last one?
That was the last. We're literally all tied at 2 here. Alex Hollins and Justin McInnes. One fun stat I have is, can you guys, here, we'll do a tiebreaker here. Can you guys name how many teams Justin McInnes and Alexander Hollins combined receiving yards? They have more receiving yards than how many entire teams in the CFL this season? Right.
Like just this season?
Yes. So
I would probably say 3.
4.
got an answer, Flint?
I got 3.
I'll go with 4.
The answer is 2.
Oh,
Those are all incorrect.
Geez.
No, I win. I'm close.
We'll go closest for Moj. So Hollins and McInnes have 1,381 receiving yards already. The Calgary Stampeders, their entire team of 1,276.
Wow.
The Toronto Argonauts have 1,118. There's one more game in there, but still, that's a crazy stat. The entire team.
They've been absolutely
those two.
on fire.
So there you go.
All right.
Moj wins.
Great stuff. I win as usual. Nick Kowalski, thank you. Steph Flintoft, we're going to let you run. Thanks for stopping by, and good luck against the Stampeders in Calgary on Sunday.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
All right, Matt Baker, before we get out of here, we're going to take care of some housekeeping notes. The Lions don't play another home game, as we mentioned, right off the get-go until August 18th. So if people want any more info about that, how do they go about it?
Yeah, so that's a bad news, good news scenario. The good news is there's a lot of time to make plans, buy tickets. This is our annual Fam Fest game, a family theme. Great day for the kids, just so you know, Moj. Get the kids out, the grandkids, whomever. Terry Fox Plaza will include complimentary spray tattoos, face painting, always a hit. I know you love that. Game competitions, fun games. The Kids Club will be activating as always. And kids, post-game, will get the chance to run on the field.
Awesome.
And how good is this? Musical performance by the one and only Fred Penner will be part of that. And your ticket gets you gate admission to the P&E that week. I know you love the P&E. I might go down myself, get some pierogies, and eat some cotton candy.
I'll say this, if it's even as remotely as successful as the Watermelon Smash.
Oh, yes. Well, young Judd here, I think, won one of the competitions, right? Yeah.
So, that was like, apparently I was talking.
It was a major hit, yeah.
I never went out there, but I was told that it was just amazing. The atmosphere was amazing. I did see video of it, and of course, we'll get into this in a sec. As we mentioned, the Lions are on the road for the next few weeks, but that doesn't mean you still can't follow your favorite CFL team because Nick Kowalski and his gang are going to provide all the media content. By the way, great job on the game wrap, and great job on that green interception.
like I replied to you on Twitter. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's the first big blown call that I've had this year. But anyway, BCLions.com. You guys got First and Now, the podcast, right?
Yep, we'll be teeing up Calgary Week this week. Always a fun one. And I want to mention as well, Grey Cup. We announced this the other day. Lower Bowl sold out. We're over 45,000 tickets. So anyone on the fence about Grey Cup tickets, act while you can, because I have a feeling this one could be sold out in a matter of weeks, months, maybe not months, but exciting times right now.
And again, as I mentioned, if you want to follow the Lions, the social media content that Nick and his crew do is outstanding. You can follow it on YouTube at BC Lions. They have their own YouTube channel. You can follow BC Lions on X as well. And like I said, the stuff that they're putting out is simply amazing. So congratulations to Nick and his crew. All right, that is a wrap for us tonight as we conclude proceedings here at Boston Pizza Stadium District, right next to Terry Fox Plaza. And a big thank you to Ismet and his crew for having us and for going above and beyond, as we mentioned, trying to find that
few
speaker.
Safety hazards involved, I'm just telling you. But no incidents.
Workers' comp will be here in the morning. Again, thank you to Matt Baker and Nick Kowalski from the Lions Media Content Team. Our guest tonight, BC Lions punter Stefan Flintoft, and the man behind the scenes, award-winning producer Trevor Martin's doing a great job as usual. The executive producer of BC Lions on Tap is one Michael Whittingham. As we mentioned, that's a wrap for us tonight. You know what I'm going to tell you before we get out of here? Before we do that, we've got to tell you that there's a game this Sunday that you can hear on the BC Lions radio network against the Calgary Stampeders. Pregame show at 3, kickoff at 4 as the Lions travel to Calgary to take on the Stampeders. Again, that is this Sunday, 4 o'clock kickoff. I wanted to get that in before we get out of here. And as we get out of here, again, do what you got to do. People, go out there. Go for it on 3rd and short. Hell, go for it on 3rd and 2. Throw a pass like Vernon Adams did down the sidelines.
Order the square footer pizza at Boston
There you go.
Pizza.
Just do us a favor. Be safe. We'll talk to you next week.